Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to the Keypoints live on TV3, also live on 3 FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, also on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. So next we're going to be looking at the appointment of an acting IGP in the person of COP, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, and also the vetting of the Special Prosecutor nominee, Mr. Kisi Jabing, who was soon after actually recommended by the Parliament Appointments Committee for approval by the House. Now, these all happened in the course of the weekend. We're going to be having a conversation about that. In the studio with me to have this conversation, we have lawyer Justice Abdullahi. Of course, he's a lawyer and lecturer with the law school at the University of UPSA. Sorry. And then we also have in the studio.
The name in full is good.
Sorry?
We need a name in full. UPSA.
University of Professional Studies.
Thank
Very
you so
well.
much.
Yes, University of Professional
really
Studies, Accra. Yes. And then there's Richard Nyama, Deputy Director of Communications with the NPP. Over on Zoom, we have Dr. Kojo Asante. He's the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement with the CDD Ghana. And also the Honorable Peter Tobu. He's the MP for Wa West and a member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. Good morning, gentlemen, in studio and on Zoom.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Abena.
Good. It's great to have you. Let me start, this conversation with you, Honorable Peter Tobu. We're looking at the appointment of COP Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare as the acting IGP to take over from James Buenu from the 1st of August 2021. But before you start, Honorable Tobu, let's quickly go through a list of the past 10 IGPs. We have from 2001 and to January 2001 to July 2001, we had Ernest Owusu Poku. And then we have Nana Owusu Nsia coming in 22nd July 2001 to March 23rd, 2005. Thereafter, we also had Patrick Kwatin Echampong from 25th March 2005 to 28th January 2009. Then also we had Elizabeth Mills Robertson in an acting position coming in from 28th of January 2009. Paul Teriakwe came in between 16 May 2009 and 1st February 2013. Then came in Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan from the 5th of February 2013 to 9th November 2015. We also had John Kudalo coming through from the 19th of February 2016 to 25th January 2017. Then came David Asante Apietu from 25th January 2017 to the 22nd of July 2019. Then to the current James Opon Buenu from October 2019 to present day. And George Ekufu-Dampare would be taking over from James Opon Buenu from the 1st of August 2021. Honorable Peter Tobu, COP George Ekufu-Dampare personally and professionally. So let us know who he is some more. Let us in on what you know about him, briefly.
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our cherished viewers and good morning to my fellow panelists, Dr. Asante, lawyer Justice Abdullahi, and then Richard Nyama. It's been a beautiful day. I want to also say hello to the people who brought me to Parliament, the Wa West constituents. I salute all of them. I know they are watching as we speak. Straight up to the point, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare. I will be talking about the Commissioner of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare. Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare started policing like me from scratch. In 1990, he got into the police training school at Depot, graduated at the top of the class as the best recruit, and he was a smart guy. He quickly took up to academic studies, and gradually, in a very short period of time, he was a chartered accountant at the age of 25. And today you see that he holds a PhD. That is the academic life. Professionally, Dr. George Dampare is seen as the people's IGP in the sense that the constables, the first corporal, the sergeants, the inspectors, the other rank, they see themselves in him. The fact that he's gone through the trail. Those who believe so much in the fact that policing has become a science and you need a lot of intelligence, you need a lot of brilliant people in the system to be able to turn things around. And they want to go in for the first degrees and the masters and the PhDs. They also can find themselves in him. A lot of people who believe that humility is a hallmark of leadership can find themselves in Dr. Akufo Dampare. I've worked with him. I've worked with him when he was Director General Finance under Mr. Paul Tawiakwe, who was then the IGP. I was the Executive Secretary. I've worked with him when he was maintained as Director General Finance under Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan, who took over from Mr. Paul Tawiakwe as IGP. I was still the Executive Secretary. I've also worked with him when Mr. David Asante-Apiato became IGP. I was the Executive Secretary, and Dr. George Akufo Dampare came in for Director General Operations, and gradually he moved into Director General Research and Planning. So Dr. George Akufo Dampare is somebody I've had personal relationship with in terms of professional relationship. I know what he's made up of. I know his capabilities. I know his level of leadership skill, and I know what he can do.
So tell us what do you think he can do? You say you know what he can do. What do you think he can do? And earlier on, you mentioned the fact that he is seen as the people's IGP. I just want to know, is that a factor or a determinant for an IGP's successful tenure or not? So what do you think he can do?
What he can do will have to be the skill set he's brought on board to pick up this job. Effective the 1st of August, I'm sure you will begin to see what he's capable of doing. Assembling a very powerful team, putting things together. You know, Warren Buffett made a statement which is quite expository, and I think I can use that to explain what Dr. Akufo Dampare can do. He says if you want to hire somebody into your organization to give the organization a future, you need 3 key things. 1, integrity. 2, intelligence. And the last one is energy. Dr. George Akufo Dampare is a man of integrity. He's a very intelligent person. And he has energy at the age of 51. So all these 3 key things are found in him. If he's going to fail, he will surprise many people. What he can do have to do with the fact that as a former municipal commander of Cape Coast, as a former regional commander of the capital that is the seat of government, Greater Accra region, as a former Director General Operations, a former Director General Research and Planning, a former Director General of Welfare, and now the Director General of the Police Administration, GP2 as we call it. If there is anything at all he needs to learn in policing, he has learned it. If there is anything that at all he needs to know to become a better Inspector General of Police, he has known that. So all he requires to do is to be able to understand that this requires teamwork. And in that team spirit, because of his level of humility, I am quite convinced that all the police commissioners at the police headquarters will give him their backing, they will support him, and all the regional commanders will give him the backing, and gradually we'll have a solid team to bring policing back to where it ought to be.
Very well. Thanks for that. Let me cross over quickly to Dr. Asante. Dr. Asante, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So, quick context. We've had IGPs come in and go, and we've always had issues about policing, and like Honorable Tobu just ended, he hopes things will be turned around under the tenure of COP Dampare. So question then is, do we need to perhaps modify how our IGPs are appointed? And in this regard, we're looking at perhaps making it competitive, the appointments, to that IGP position. Should it become a more competitive thing? For instance, should we even have IGPs vetted, for us to know what they're made of and people to know exactly who is being brought to that position?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that, that's an issue that has been flagged, I think, several times in terms of the review of our governance, because every post, whether it's post-election, any security review process that has been taken comes back to the fact that, the appointment of the IGP by a president and the different kinds of political pressure that police officers face, the fear of being transferred or demoted or not, moving up the ranks, creates incentives for, police officers not being independent. And if there's a way in which you can take away that pressure, that it can always help to ensure that police officers can do their work without the interference of the political elite. So that is still a question that is on the table, and whether or not a constitutional reform process would address that. I think we've seen examples in Kenya and other places, even in the UK recently, where police officers are elected and so on. So we have to review that. So the IGP is important because of the command and control process that security agencies operate with. And once the person who is at the top is influenced one way or the other, then it would get to the lower ranks, But I hear a lot of good things about Dr. Dampari. I think even when the position came up after Apietu retired, it was expected that he was going to be IGP. So a lot of people put their trust in him, but as Honorable Tobu has said, it's not just about one person. There's a lot of work that has to be done. I am particularly concerned about police intelligence because of the various threats that we are facing, and some of the kind of responses that we have seen from the police in respect of many sort of major crimes that have been committed. The longer the police is unable to bring perpetrators to justice for crimes that have captured the nation's imagination, then it undermines confidence in the police.
Right.
So intelligence is key. The CID has been investing a lot in forensics and so on, but we are not seeing the fruits of that investment. It started with Apietu some years back, and it's supposed to really help address these things, but we are not seeing. So I am happy that this is somebody who is seen as somebody who treasures intelligence, who treasures research, and some of the soft sides of policing, that then makes operations more efficient and more effective. And then when you start thinking about external threats from jihadists, other kinds of threats from organized crime, cyber security, and so on. So that, the police, in terms of internal security policing, there's some really serious challenges that we are facing, and trying to sort of direct the police in a path that helps them to respond, I think is going to be key. And I hope that this time we're going to have an IGP that is there longer, long enough, because I cannot see how the institution can be responsive and achieve all its objectives when we keep changing, the leadership. And as soon as there's a change in the leadership, there's a change across for commanders, for all kinds of people. So that I welcome the news. He's young, and as I said, I hope that he can stay longer, and if we can give our support to him, that will be for me very, very important. And just one last thing, the more recent issues that have come with regard to the joint policing between the army and the police, and how the standard operating procedures that are deployed in those scenarios, have really not had led to a lot of fatalities. That I think is a key area for review, and a very quick review, because we should expect more protest as a form of expression from young people. And the earlier the police find very, more humane ways and smart ways of responding to these kinds of, public order issues, the better. Otherwise, it would begin to radicalize people as, people get brutalized and so on and so forth. And that can create more problems. So I think there are some major sort of, key dynamics that are operating that if he can already show some new approach,
very well,
that will be helpful.
Very well. Let me push this up further. I earlier asked a question about, the perhaps review as to how the IGPs are appointed, but specifically, I want you to look at the utility of, for instance, if eventually there's a review and we are considering parliamentary vetting of an IGP, the utility of that. Let me know what you think of that.
So yeah, I mean, as I said, I've done several, post-election review and the particular roles. I mean, even up to now, you ask the police all of the election infractions and people who committed crimes and so on and so forth, whether from incumbent party or opposition and so on. Up to now, we still request for an update, and you don't get these updates of what actions have been taken, for against these people, because it would then, went into the next election that, yes, when it happened to you, so if my government is empowered me to, I'll do whatever. And the police will always tell you, of the kind of interference you get. And they will, if you want to survive, you're not going to put your neck out because it's not worth it. So I think that it's important that the IGP and the leadership of the police and ranking officers, whether regional commanders, district commanders, have the confidence of the political class that they can do their work without any interference. And getting political consensus around that through a parliamentary vetting always helps.
Very well. So
I think that is one way that it can be done. And anyway, that can be done without legislation anyway.
Sure, very well. Now, let's look at this. Your institution conducts the Afrobarometer reports.
Yeah.
And I think we can say that consistently, the Ghana Police Service, comes up tops when it comes to perception of corruption in institutions. And so with the appointment of COP Dampare as an acting IGP, what are your expectations about his, and with all that you know about him now, at least from Honorable Tobu and from what's been put out in the media, what do you think he can contribute to that, perception, erasing that perception, if you like, of corruption in the service?
Yeah, one of the things I've always mentioned every time the issue about perception around police corruption comes up is that I am yet to see an IGP that comes and says, one of the things I want to deal with is police officers collecting money on the roads, because it's the most visible way in which police perception of corruption arises. That's how the citizens interact with the police, whether you are in a trotro, you're in a taxi, you have a private, police officers, just begging for money and extorting and all of those things. It's such a pervasive, activity that goes on, and it really affects the image of the police. But there has not been any effort to sort of, in a systematic way, have a program to deal with it substantively. Because if that could be taken away, can you imagine what kind of impact that will have when citizens now begin to see that their police officers are strict, their police officers are enforcing the law, and so on? Because the citizens have to feel that the wind of change, and the quickest way they can feel the wind of change is through these kinds of actions.
Very well.
So for me, that's one of the fastest way that you can try to have an impact. It's easier said than that, of course, but as I said, for me, that is very symbolic. A policeman collecting a bribe on the streets from a taxi driver or trotro driver is the most symbolic, picture of corruption.
Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Kudirat. I'll be coming back to you for your perspectives on the special prosecutor nominee as well. Justice Abdullahi, let's hear you on the appointment of DCOP. Sorry, why do I keep on saying DCOP? COP, Commissioner of Police, George Dampare, and the fight, against corruption and all of that. Because obviously this conversation is being had within that context, how
Absolutely.
this appointment can help with, the fight against corruption, but perhaps starting from within the police service itself.
Let me say that this is probably the second time that I've heard such a huge euphoria around the appointment of an IGP in Ghana. The first time was when I think it was somewhere around 2016 or thereabout, or earlier, 2011 thereabout, when a female, I think it was Robertson, when she was appointed, an acting, in fact it was even an acting position, and that was the first time there was so much euphoria about a new IGP having been appointed. And so when I heard this one, I was naturally concerned as to exactly what he's bringing on board that has generated that level of enthusiasm from all Ghanaians across board, everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. And indeed, I talked to those who know him, either from the professional level or those who have dealt with him from other angles. And the commentary has been very good. It hasn't been different from what the media say, and indeed what Tobu has just said. He appears to be a solid guy, not just, I get the drift when people keep talking about his age and all of that.
I know, right?
I don't know why that matters really in this discourse, but unfortunately that's what it is. And so I feel that renewed enthusiasm that he brings on board. I feel it even from where I sit that even a week before he assumes office, he appears to be sending a lot of good messages out there without even having to say a word. And this is what we can all do for our nation. This is what I believe we can all do when... And this same enthusiasm was greeted with the previous special prosecutor. It was similar or even more when he was named as a special prosecutor. We clearly telling you that Ghanaians know what is good and we love what is good. But our leaders probably do not like what is good. And so they will never give us that which is good, which we know can help us.
But he's been nominated at least. He's been appointed acting, so.
Yeah, you see, I'm saying this in context. When good people are chosen, see how all of us jubilate over it.
Does that resounding?
That's the point I'm trying to make. And it's always across board, cross political divide. When the usual persons are appointed, nobody really cares.
True.
It's like, oh, well, another job for another young man, to milk us. So let's
Very well.
So the point here is that this is a good message that we are sending to ourselves and to the entire world, that indeed there's another fine gentleman who has the potential of reforming the entire police service. For me, one of the earliest things I would expect him to do is his collaboration with the Attorney General's office to withdraw the entire police from the courtrooms. Those doing the prosecutorial works should all be withdrawn. But we do not even have enough police officers to run around this country, do the, what's it called? The visibility jobs in the day, not just in the night. Right. Because, one good thing about the police is that even just a single policeman walking down the street is capable of stopping crime, just his mere presence. And this psychological effect, everybody knows. In fact, they keep selling this message, and we all know that indeed it is true. But unfortunately, we are 40,000 police personnel short of what we need, even to meet just the standard
so
that is required.
Let's take them out of the courtrooms and get them into where they need
to. And so get all these ones from the courtrooms back to where they belong, actually belong.
Very well.
And I have said this several times, that that is so easy to do, because now we have a lot of LLB holders who can take up all those positions and be on the Attorney General's payroll rather than be on the police administration's payroll. That is the earliest thing I expect him to do, so that in addition to the 5,000 that they are yet to recruit, we probably may have about close to 50,000 police officers, which will still be about 30,000 short of what we actually need. But going forward,
there.
At least we'll be making some progress in regards to that.
Very
and so, that. And then, naturally, I know everybody's talking about the corruption part of it, which I expect I expect to see a lot of things regarding that area. I remember one IGP, I think about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, in his fight against corruption, decided to rather do a media campaign and then sharing of flyers and then bills and posts. Really.
So maybe those are all lessons to be learned, and so definitely
you cannot fight corruption within the police administration simply by writing at the station that bail is is not payable, or it is good. I mean, to send such messages. It's probably would work for the media gimmicks, but the reality is the checks that are put in place to completely stop it.
Very well.
It is not the media gimmick. It's
Right.
not. It's not about posters. And the police. I mean, I think we know the sort of things that can get us the result we need. And among those would include, for instance, having all these cameras around
body
either on
cams
the
and all
chest
that.
or
Very well.
wherever, and having to feed those cameras directly into their strong rooms, so that we know what kind of discussions they have, we know what they see, how they see what they see, how they react to some of these things. This is a modern way of fighting crime and stemming corruption.
Very well.
This is the best way you can do these things.
Sure.
Of course, saying this doesn't mean that I'm oblivious of the cost implications. But if you think peace is expensive, maybe you probably should try anarchy and chaos.
Very well. Let me bring in Richard at this point. Richard.
Richard would have given me his time because I'm his brother.
Your initial thoughts on it, but specifically,
I'm his brother. You would have given his time.
Why-
You didn't allow me.
I mean, the people are concerned about, or want to know why appoint him as an acting IGP and not a substantive IGP right from the get-go.
Let me say good morning to my co-panelists and your viewers, and thank you for having me. Seriously, I don't envy him. He's coming bearing a very heavy burden. The expectations are very high. And like my senior brother, Mr. Tobu, said, he comes with integrity. And I think that's the resounding theme around the table and across the divide. The integrity and humility that he brings to the table. And they say good things come to those who wait. I think he's waited his turn. I want to believe that when he gets into the saddle, by his performance, the confirmation will automatically follow. So I wouldn't have sleepless nights over his acting position. But there are two major things that I would want to see.
But before that, if you could, I mean, the bit about the acting position, it's not the first time, it wouldn't be the first time that
Yes, they have
a person's been,
acted,
but
yes, I think,
for that, you realize that it's for short periods. So for Elizabeth Mills Robertson,
Yes.
That was from January 2009 to May 2009. And so, I mean,
but
looking at the praise that has
Yes.
come with Dampari's appointment as IGP, I'm sure people would want him to become the substantive.
you
But
see-
looking at the historical antecedents, it's a bit...
No, but there have been instances where acting has become substantive as well. My issue here is, it looks like for some while now, we have not been very happy or excited about the policing we're getting. And so maybe the attitude is to test the waters. Let's see what you bring to the table before we confirm you.
So the president was testing the waters, that's what you're saying, with this kind of...
I'm saying
suggesting.
that could be. That could be. You see, there's a lot of praise, and that's why I don't envy him, because the expectations are so up there. If he doesn't hit the ground running, we might turn that into a lot of criticism, and Ghanaians.
But would it be fair to test him, given the kind of narrative you've put out here? Of course, and we all know, like you're saying, he's coming in at a very difficult time.
Yes.
And using, I don't know how long he would be tested for. That is, if indeed that was what the president was doing with this acting thing. But would that be fair on him to come in at a time when everything is not necessarily, the best of,
I don't
in the best of
assume
shape?
that the president is testing him. I am.
That's
yes.
and I'm using that as
yes, and I am saying that even assuming that is the case, I think there's cause for that because it's been a bit disappointing in the past few years, and that I have to be very blunt about. Mine is you know, our neighboring countries, the threat of terrorism is very serious. In actual fact, it's now with us, and the security services. It's not everything that you can say, but they are out there actively trying to make sure that the silly things that happen around our borders don't happen here. So, Dr. Asante's suggestion on the terrorism is a very important issue. The collaboration between the two, the military and the police. The military are doing their possible best around the borders, and we have seen some arrests and other things take place because of that. But you see, these guys also are quite smart, and sometimes one or two people slip through the system. And once that happens, it's down to the police to also nip those guys in the butt. And there is a need for us to up the ante in that direction because the threat currently is very real. I think the collaboration is ongoing. Some of those have spilled into what we have seen in the internal issues that are currently before some committees and all those things. But if he came with a plan on how the standard operating procedures are properly defined and well apportioned, we should be able to keep Ghana safe for our neighbors to still want to throng in. The other issue, and the most importantly, is the issue of corruption. I'm going to give some suggestion, and I want to believe it will be probably so radical. But you see, I cringe when a policeman stops me and tells me, "Oh, boss, today is Friday. Something for the boys." So, it's the uniform. It's not your person that we respect. It's the uniform. You see, anyone can be a policeman, but you would have to bring some respectability to that uniform. In any jurisdiction, when a policeman appears, what the imprints on the mind of the citizen is someone of integrity. And that is what our police force has lost. And why have they lost it? They are in traffic seeking 1 cedi, 2 cedi.
So what do you think can be done to undo that?
I think seriously that culture is very difficult to change. If I had the opportunity and to advise Dr. Dampari, I would probably have him ask for us to privatize motor traffic. And let me explain myself. I see traffic offenses as one, if not the number one income earner for government in this country, if we go ahead and implement it well. Our eyes are all on the harbor. In other jurisdictions, those are major sources of funds for government. But in our case, people are committing the crimes and paying 1 cedi and 2 cedi and getting away with it. So government is not getting the revenue that is required. Right. So mine is this. The police who are supposed to be doing that are busy collecting 1 cedi and 2 cedi. You cannot rely on them. They won't change today, they won't change tomorrow. We need to take a break though. So my suggestion is that private security are giving, you are demarcated, you are giving zones. If it is Tema, one private security company takes it. Accra, Kumasi do that. Give it to the private security. They have requirements. They have the body cams at their own expense. They will have to bring it in. Government then gives them the receipts that they will have to issue spot fines.
It's an interesting thing
Yes.
you've raised. Mr. Honorable Tobu here is, you know, the, let me say, on the panel, expert in that area because he is himself a former policeman. So let me
Yes.
just throw that to him
Oh,
and see.
I haven't finished
No, but you've
expressing
proposed, you've
No,
proposed
hold
the
on.
privatization
Yes,
of it.
The privatization, but let me explain how I think it should work. Then he can come in. Point is that if you had the private security, you give them, this comes at no cost to government because the body counts we are asking for, government will have to procure them. We do not have the money. Let the private security companies that are capable show that we can procure all these things. You then assign a couple of policemen. Nobody stands there. You are issued the receipt. They will probably have a table on the motorway where you go and pay and take your receipt and go. Nobody, you are not asking or having any questions. Once you are on the side of the road which you are not supposed to be, once you are breaking traffic, there is a spot fine, you are paying it cash there. Everybody is counting. Government decides if the private company is taking 20 or 30%, the rest comes to the state.
Very well.
This, I think, will take out that culture.
Very well.
Then we'll reduce the number of the police on the streets in traffic and go and let them do their community work.
Very well. Honorable Tobu,
Yes, Governor.
you've heard of Richard's. I'm sure you have comments in respect of that, but
Sure.
we need to take a break. But before that, let's have your expectations about COP Dampari's perhaps in the short term. What are your short-term expectations from him?
That question is mine?
Yes, to you.
Right.
We're taking a break, but I just need that from you quickly.
Very quickly, before I can make that comment, I think I need to make some correction on Richard's submission. Please, anyone can be a police officer, as his mate declared. It's not true. It's not everybody who can be a police officer. Policing is a calling, and people with passion to serve must be the ones that can be police officers. You need integrity to be a professional police officer. If he's talking about outsourcing the job of the MTTD, I do agree, but it's not about privatizing. If you privatize, you are just shifting the corruption into another level. Let's look at why is it that the perception around corruption in that area is so right.
But who would it be outsourced to? Who would it be outsourced to?
In some time back, we're thinking about creating some unit under the Ministry of Transport and let the Ministry of Transport take care of these road-related matters that are giving the perception about corruption in the police very high. If you're able to do that, I'm sure that with time, you begin to appreciate that the policeman is not necessarily corrupt. The society is structured in such a way that it's difficult for you to be on the road and do the things that you want to do professional without the kind of pressure that society will be bringing to bear upon you. But that notwithstanding, I think that Dr. Dampari will have a platform that will allow everybody to contribute some ideas for us to see how can we chart a new path towards bringing professional policing to bear in our democratic dispensation. Very quickly, the problem is that, you see, when you are appointed as acting, there is a problem for you to come and solve. As we speak, there are problems. And the problems are violent crime, the problems are crowd control management related issues, the problem are rising youth employment that is connected to crime, and Dr. Dampari has been appointed to act. I am very sure within the 6 months period that people are thinking that is a honeymoon period, after 6 months, we'll begin to assess him to see whether he's putting the right structures to be able to manage crime. Crime basically is about prevention. I can make one suggestion. I'll give him a deployment plan of 541. 541 is a deployment plan that says put 50% of your staff into operations, prevention. Put 40% of your staff into intelligence and investigation, and put just that last 10% of your staff into administration. If you're able to do this 50, 40, 10, I am telling you as a matter of fact, within a short period of time, you begin to see the public confidence continuously building into the police service. But if you have so many people sitting in the offices, policing is out there in the field. Policing is not in the office. The office is administrative. You sit down and push paper to ensure that the men and women who are on the ground in the front line will have the morale to be able to work fast.
Very
so
well.
They're able to do the 50, 40, 10.
Honestly, we need to take a break, but you've raised an issue that I want to bring in. The critics about or of COP Dampari, the few, I must say, have said that, well, he's more of an administration person. He hasn't had, substantial experience, if you like, at the forefront of things like you're talking about. Operations, I believe, is the terminology in your sector. Then that should be a concern, shouldn't it?
No, it's not a concern. The Inspector General of Position, his position is so unique. You know, in the police, we say the Inspector General is a spirit. We say he's a spirit because you hardly see him, you only hear him, you only read from him. And his directives are so powerful. If he knows how to put square pegs in square holes, round pegs in round holes, he'll be able to identify people who are operationally minded, probably even better than him as the IGP, and place them in the right positions and direct them, and they will work for him. So that's what I'm talking about, the ability to build a guiding coalition, a very powerful team with the right people, the right skill set, put in the right places, and they will function effectively.
Thank you. We'll take a break at this point. When we come back, we move into the vetting of the Special Prosecutor nominee, Mr. Kisi Ejabin. This is the Key Point. Stay with us. We'll be right back.